I'm Ben. Most people online know me as Nahamsec. I'm a bug bounty hunter. Before doing bug bounties, or before leaving bug bounties, I still do bug bounties, but it's not my, main focus anymore. Now I'm doing some educational content on YouTube, and I have my own educational platform and teaching the next generation of hackers.
Yeah, man, that's very awesome. What's the platform called for everyone? Because I know Stalker as well here in the chat. He recently did one of your courses.
Yeah, it's called Hacking. Put it in there too. So if people wanted to check it out, they can go on there. There's a bunch of free content on there. You don't have to pay for everything. Everything's, mostly free. We have some courses. We just did a Linux course that's very affordable for like $20. And then I have my course on there that I can put on there too.
That's awesome. Yeah, so maybe you can tell us a bit more about that, the things that you have right now, like what inspired you to make the course about those topics, a bit about your history.
Yeah. So to be honest, when I first started doing bug bounties about, I don't know, in like 10, 11 years now, everything was super scattered. There's a lot of information. There's always been information online, but it's been always super scattered. Even to this day, you have all these research and talks, something's on YouTube, then it's a podcast, then it's a Discord channel, then it's, a platform that you have to pay for. I realize everything is just super scattered. And if people want to learn something, you have to, some people can, learn on their own. They can go and create the time to, look for this information. They have it in them to do it. And then some people don't. Some people need to have a curriculum where they could follow and they can learn from. So I always, looked into how they did things because I wanted to learn how specific people did specific bugs. So if someone found an RCE on Yahoo back in the day, I'd message them and ask them a bunch like, hey, if you can share it with me, like, hey, how did you look for it? What was your idea? How did you do it? And things like that. And then trying to go replicate it. And I realized that's probably what most people want. It's, they want to, when they see somebody's, talking about like doing bug bounties and doing specific things, they want to learn how they do it. So that's kind of why I've started to create a course, but I also do YouTube because I also want to make sure people get access to some of this information for free and they get the guidance that I wish I had back in the day when I was doing, because there's a lot of things that I wish I knew early on in my career that, I could have probably learned from a YouTube video or an article or something like that. And those didn't exist back in the day. So yeah, I kind of wanted to do both of those things. One, to teach people on a deeper level, and then also reach an audience that wants to learn from me and turn their life around like I did with bug bounties and hacking.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. How long have you been doing this? By the way, there's a lot of questions in the chat as well. And if anyone wants to ask a question, send it in the chat and Ben will read it.
Yeah. I figured we'll do it for a majority today, just because I know when I, do these guest appearances, people have a lot of questions about bug bounties, about me and about things I've done. So I would love to keep this as like maybe a QA. And if we have extra time, I can show you guys a couple of slides if you guys want to see some of the stuff that I've been working on. So I'll just go through them as they come in. So if you guys want to, post more questions in the chat, I can just read them off as well. Let me see. So I know someone asked, do you remember your first bug reported? My first ever bug I reported was a self XSS, and I'm pretty sure it got paid for $250. This is in 2013 or 2014. I'm not sure, one of those. Just found it, reported it. They're like, cool, here's a bounty for it. But the biggest thing, the biggest bounty that was like life-changing was back then Yahoo didn't pay a lot of money. So if you found like an SQL injection, they only paid $3,000 for it. But I happened to find 3 of them in the same day on like the same app, but there were different endpoints and different parameters and things like that. And that took him a while to pay. So I reported that maybe, let's say in, late January, early February. I got that paid, end of March, mid-March. And that one paid me $3,000 bounties. And the reason why that was so significant is this is when I realized like, okay, this is really real. Like if I can make $9,000 as a college student living in a very tiny apartment, I share it with 2 other people. So it's 3 of us in a very, 1-bedroom apartment at the time. And then my expenses were $500 a month. And I had just made 9,000, which was well over a year's worth. So that was just this, it made it significant because it made me realize like, what else can I do? Like, if I can make 3,000 3 times in one day, can I make more? Can I make this into a career where I don't go and get a job while I'm in college and I just do this for a living? And it turned out the answer was yes. And I think there's research that has been done on this too, that like everything changes after you break that like barrier. When you tell yourself like, I want to make $5,000 a month, right? And my goal is I want to make $5,000 a month with bug bounties. Once you break that mental barrier and you see that it's accomplished and you can do it, it just changes the way that you operate. Then you go, can I do it again? Can I do it again? Can I do it again? Then you start saying, can I do it again? Maybe now a little bit more. So, my goal became, can I make 3,000 a month, since, it was 3 times 3,000. Then, a couple months later when I was making 3,000 a month every month, I was like, okay, can I make it 5,000? And then make it 8,000. And then for a year, when I got my first job at HackerOne, 8,000 was my salary a month. And I was like, okay, can I double my salary by making 8,000 a month on bug bounties too? And then I just coasted through it. And then I just kept doing it and doing it. And I was happy with that. Was like all I wanted to do. So I recommend people setting a goal and doing that. And that was a significance for me, getting those 3 bugs. How would you rate the CBBH course from Hack the Box to get into bug bounty? I can't comment on somebody else's course. Given that I have my own certificate and my own course, I cannot comment on somebody else's, especially saying if it's good or if it's bad. If I say bad, because I'm biased, I have my own course. If I say good, I can't say it because I have not done it. The only thing that I can say, 5 years ago when this was being created, I got the chance to review it as a part of my job with HackerOne. So I was a little bit involved, but I don't know what the material is like. I don't know what's on there. But if it's anything like the rest of Hack the Box stuff, I can only imagine that it's probably as good as all the other stuff. But I can't comment on something that I have never reviewed or I've never taken. And also, it's something that they're also doing that's similar to what I'm doing. But I'm a big fan of Hack the Box itself. They do good stuff. So if it's like anything else that I've done, it's got to be good. What are the 3 topics and web attacks you would focus on now in 2025? I just did a video on this, and I think it's the same thing as that video. Honestly, I don't think the year is going to matter at this point until we get rid of these bugs. XSS is never going to go anywhere, personally. I think XSS is going to continue to be there, and it's just going to become sometimes more complicated with, especially with post messages and things like that. I would always recommend looking at XSS as one of the first entry things. It's one of the first things that I teach. I think XSS and IDOR should be bundled together just because they're super entry level, but also super common in web apps right now. And then I think you need to also be good at some sort of a server-side vulnerability. SSRFs are really cool because it makes you wonder how different things works. It helps you learn how to do things with JavaScript. It helps you understand how the internal networks may work. You have to kind of do reconnaissance to understand where the internal assets are. Then you have paths to get remote command execution. It kind of helps you figure out a lot of these different vulnerabilities that all, go into SSRF. The root cause isn't going to be different. It's just SSRF, it's the bug class, but I think it teaches you a lot of different things if you master SSRF. And also for a third thing, I think I've seen a lot of people doing a lot of dependency confusion attacks. I don't do them. I'm not an expert at them, but I know a lot of people that are making good money from doing them as well. But if I had to pick something as my third one to focus personally, I would go towards AI just because of the fact that they're everywhere. Everyone has an AI chatbot. Everything's powered by AI. There's some AI behind something. So I would also focus there as well. Maxime says hi. Hi. What are the most common bugs found nowadays? And would you focus on specializing one specific attack or multiple? I still think to this day, and I've said this a bunch of times, XSS is one of the most common bugs. I don't care what anybody says. If they deny it, then they don't want you to know that they're finding it. I think that is probably the most common bugs. I think 20-something% of my bounties last year, if not more, were XSS. Because anything I want to test, I test it with XSS. Can I get a PDF generator to pop as an XSS app and no XSS? I XSS the app, then export to PDF, for example. Store XSS, it's massive. You can find a bunch of those. As far as focusing on something and specializing on something, I would say if you are new, I would make a list of bugs that are appealing to you. I could tell you go learn XSS, go learn SSRF, go learn I. But if you're just learning them because I said them and because I enjoy doing them, you're not going to want to do those every day. The reason why I do XSS, SSR, because I really enjoy looking for those. I love the aspect of, putting my text in a profile box, like let's say my first name, I make an XSS payload, and then chasing all the different places that my name may pop up. It may say, hello, so-and-so in the profile page. It may pop up with my name when someone reports my profile. It may pop up with my name when they email me, like things like that, right? I love the aspect of like mapping out every single place that my name pops up. It's the same thing with IDOR, right? I'm not looking for XSS, but I'm looking to map out how the API works. How are addresses being stored? Is it per user, or is it like the address has its own path? How are things accessed? How are they mapped out? It's like becomes a puzzle, and you just get to have a focal point to do things. And then with SSRF, I just love it because there's so many different things to check that people tend to forget to do it, right? Like people don't look for some of these techniques, or they're too lazy to do it. But I think at the end of it, you should kind of think of what piques your interest. So you're reading reading a blog post and you go, holy crap, this technique is really cool. I want to learn everything about it. That should be your starting point. Learn everything about it, finding on bug bounty programs. That's how I learned also. I saw the Ibrahim Ghazi, I think is his last name. He had found a RCE on Yahoo China, I want to say, or something in the Asian countries that wasn't in the part of the core bug bounty program for Yahoo. And there's this whole news that like, oh, Yahoo didn't pay researcher for this RCE. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like he found a pure RCE on a Yahoo asset. I want to do that. So I read his blog post a bunch. I kept going back for it, looking at the different parameters and the things he tested or the things that he didn't test for and all the other assets. And eventually I got an RCE. I was able to do something very similar. So that's one approach. It's the better approach of learning things because it interests you and it gives you a goal. It gives you something to do versus me saying, go learn these vulnerabilities and things like that. But that's a nice payday. How long did it take you finally get that bug XSS from when you started at a target? It didn't take me that long because back then I was just copy pasting my payloads that I had into every box without thinking about the context of where it goes. And we were just going crazy, frantically just copy pasting payloads in a box. It doesn't really take that long to identify an XSS, right? Just going copy paste, submit. It didn't, I don't remember how long because this is 11 years ago, but not too long. Nowadays, it doesn't take me as long either, but I'm not copy pasting payloads because I understand, my XSS payload isn't going to always go into somewhere that's going to get rendered. If it goes in the text area, it goes into a script tag. They're not going to get rendered if I put a image tag in there, right? So I have a different approach, but it did take me outside of that vulnerability that I was, I didn't even think I was going to get paid. I probably shouldn't have gone paid, to be honest, because it was a self-XSS. Outside of that, it took me a couple of months to have good results. And that is someone that, grew up as a quote unquote hacker. I say quote unquote hacker because I didn't know anything. I was a script kiddie. To this day, I still think I am. But back then I had no pure understanding of nothing and how anything worked. I learned things just by, reading a lot of Millworm and security bulletins and things like that. And I didn't understand them. So I knew how to look for XSS by copy pasting payloads, but I just didn't understand how XSS worked. Things started to change when I was like, okay, copy pasting payloads go a long way. Why the heck does this thing work? And why doesn't this work? And then making that shift is what made me a lot better at bug bounties and hacking than anything else. When you find a critical bug, how big is the chance you find it on another platform? It honestly depends. I can't say not that big because I just did the opposite with Facebook. I was looking at a lot of ad platforms and every single one of them was vulnerable. Like every single social media platform you name was vulnerable to the same exact vulnerability class, the same exact way, the same exact root cause. But I think what's more interesting is when you find a vulnerability in a target, if you can find it more across their apps. So if you find XSS, if they've done it once, they gotta do it again. If they've made an error making something like some specific component that's like a screenshot tool, for example, they've probably made that mistake somewhere else. They may have not made it everywhere, like an IDOR, it may not happen everywhere, but if they've missed security check for it once, it's definitely happened multiple times. So I don't know if I would go and say multiple platforms unless I'm doing a specific piece of research when it's something on a technology stack, then yeah, those could definitely happen across multiple platforms. Similar to the cyber kill chain, do you have sorry, I'm trying to copy paste this question so I can actually make a video out of it. Cyber kill chain, where did it go? You have a bin kill chain, like an order of tooling that you always follow automate. I love that question. We're actually trying to see how to make a video out of this. It's pretty interesting to talk about the order of tooling that you use to automate. Honestly, there is I used to be a big fan of doing a lot of tooling, but I realized I love immersing myself in recon. Like I love doing recon and I love looking at data and I love looking at the things that a company owns and things like that, right? But then I realized I had spent too much time just going down rabbit holes that mean nothing. You're not getting any bounties, you're not finding any bugs, you're relying on this tool to, find you bugs because you're like recon. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost. They find, targets and they want to automate it and then they automate it and they don't find anything. I wanted to get out of that. So now I do just purely three things. I do a sub finder through a bunch of different sources that I pay API keys for. I have C99, I have security trails, I have Census, Shodan, you name it. You don't have to pay for a lot of these things. Even the free version is great. That's where I started. I know people that don't pay for it and use it. There's really good stuff. Then I do HTTPX because I want to kind of get an idea what everything looks like. You can go as far as doing screenshots with it, but you want to know what's actually accessible at all the subdomains you found. And then what do they look like? What ports are open? What services do they run? Based on the title and things like that, can you find interesting assets to hack on? So that's my second one. And then third thing is it's a split of both. I go through passive reconnaissance data, like your, Internet Archives, like Wayback URL, Waymore URL, get all URLs, whatever tools are out there for it. I go through GitHub and I go, okay, let's look at GitHub and find some cool stuff that we can hack on. The reason why I do those two things is historical data gives you an understanding of what applications used to look like or they may still be accessible. So even sometimes I see a domain that just gives me a, status okay on the index. It doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing on there, right? It could mean that you can't see it or you can't find a path for it, but then you throw it into GitHub or Google search, bam, there's an API route and it starts making a lot of sense to you. So those are like it's not really a tool, what do you call it? A cyber kill chain or a Ben's kill chain. It's an order of tooling, but it's not massive. And I do it because I realize I don't want to get, lost in the automation thing that a lot of people get lost in. What kind of automation tool you have to be faster than the rest of the crowd when a new target is released with something like HackerOne? Like I said, I used to be very, very big on automation. I don't think so. The thing that I've realized is a lot of times there's two answers for it. One is when you do a process a lot of times, like your reconnaissance, you should automate it. If you're doing subfinder, HTTPX, wayback URL, whatever, make a script that does it for you. So you're not typing commands one by one every time, right? But the second thing is when a program launches on HackerOne, I want to say 7 or 8 out of 10 times, it's not a wildcard scope. And if it's not a wildcard scope, then what are you going to automate? Like you don't know what the application looks like. JavaScript files are mapped differently. They have a hash at the end of it. Like you have to go to and do it manually. And I think with manual approach of using the application, reading the documentation and like understanding the application first, getting an understanding of the app itself is more valuable than me outsourcing everything to automation. I hate that everyone thinks bug bounties is all automation because when I go to these live hacking events, for example, majority of the bugs that are being found are either manually being tested or it's automated in a way that a tedious task is automated. Somebody knows, hey, if I find this particular component, the rest of it becomes the same. If I find this JavaScript file and I want to look for API endpoints and automate authorization, I could automate that portion without having to automate the entire process. So a lot of the good bugs aren't being found through automation, but just sitting down and observing the behavior. How does this application work? How does it handle my user input? How does it, give me text and things like that? Someone says IDOR is top 1 and the OWASP top 10 for a reason. Amen, brother. So I said XSS and IDOR is sort of an AI. What type of XSS? It doesn't matter what type. You should know how to identify any XSS from DOM XSS to reflected to stored to blind. They're all the same. They're all the root. It's the same thing. You just have to know how to execute JavaScript within the context that you're in. If you know how to approach every context, then identifying a blind XSS becomes easy because you look at your name and you go, my name could show up in a script tag, it could show up in a text area, it could show up in a form. How do I get out of those contexts, whether it's stored or not, for example, right? And then you make the same payloads. So you should be really good at just knowing how to identify XSS, no matter where it's at. Whether you look for a variable in a script and you see it's empty, you can assign a value to it, whatever that may be. So you should just know how to do any of those and just master what makes the vulnerability and not the different kinds of it, if that makes sense. It's because you can say also the same thing with IDOR, right? Like what kind of IDOR? REST APIs or GraphQL? So you're changing an integer in that case, right? The most basic form. Then it's like UUIDs. They're all the same. It's IDOR. You just have to know the different approaches for each of those different vulnerabilities or the different techniques that they use to prevent IDORs. Because companies could, instead of using a instead of using an integer ID, they can create account IDs that are hashes, right? But if you know how to find a way to leak a hash for a different user, then it doesn't matter if it's an integer or not. How did you learn how to hack? Did you mess around with certain tools, specific VMs? What are your thoughts about Hack2Box or Try Hack Me? Are they recommended way to learn? So first, let's do the how did I learn to hack? I learned at a very young age. I was super young and dumb and did stupid things that I probably shouldn't have as a kid. But it wasn't really hacking. It was like, haha, pranks. I learned how to do this thing on the internet. It's called hacking. I'm big man hacker, hacker man emoji. What I got really good at was just consuming as much as I can. Reading everyone's blog posts, reading every report that would get opened on HackerOne that was disclosed. I think I refreshed HackerOne reports more than anybody else. I did a lot of Google searches on how to do things, finding things like CTFs that were like Google Gruyere-like, Google Gruyere or the XSS cake by Google. Just going through them. Every single one of those, when you can fully do them without seeing the results, shows you a new thing. You're learning something brand new. You should do all of those so you can show that you are really good at the specific vulnerability types. I've done a lot of what is it called? The invulnerable web app. I still tell people you should go do those so you know how to do the basics. I've done a lot of those. What made me really good at is just exploring bug bounties. And I did a lot of what are they called, vulnerability disclosure programs. If you go on my profile, you'll see I was doing them back in the day because I just wanted to learn. I didn't care about just making money. It was more of I was in college. I wanted to get a job as a security engineer, and I needed to learn. So bug bounties were the place that I learned. My thoughts on Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, and platforms that I like it. Again, because I do have a competing platform, I can't give a full opinion on this. I think regardless of what platform you go to learn from, they're all going to do the same thing. They're always going to give you a box, an IP address, and go, here's an IP address, go hack it. I think those are really, really good for you to test your knowledge. To go, this box is tagged with SSRF. Can I identify this SSRF? If you can, then it shows you're learning those things. That's an option. It is a really good place for you to go, do I know the content in theory or can I do it hands-on? That's where you go and do those. Same thing with the bigger CTFs. When you have your Sneak CTF, your Nahamcon CTF, your B-sides, local B-sides CTF, those are also very good because okay, I don't know what the bug is here. Can I identify it? Those really help you one, gain that experience and that gut feeling of, I think this is what the bug is. It comes with experience and a lot of trusting yourself. So regardless of the platform, those challenges are a really good place to create that trust that you're understanding these vulnerabilities and how to look for them. That's a really good question, by the way. I know I kind of went on a different tangent with it, but it gave me a really good thing to answer. Was the largest bug exploit chain the one for Apple, or is it a different one that ties together the most exploits that you have achieved? Can you ask that a different way? I don't know what you mean. Because the Apple thing that you're talking about is probably what I did with Sam and everybody else. Those were just a bunch of different bugs. Or are you saying what's the craziest chain I've found? Give me a sec to rewrite that. You want, I'll come back to it. Where did my questions go? The craziest chain is what you want. Okay. The craziest chain I had was, honestly, it's such a really dumb bug, but I was hacking on a massive bug bounty program at a live hacking event. I don't even want to call it a chain, but it's just one of the weirdest things that you have to connect was so this company took pride in having almost near no XSS is what they call it. I love when companies say that. They go, we got to have XSS, or we don't think this is achievable, especially because we have CSP. So this company had a lot of different subdomains and you can interact with the same account on all the other subdomains, right? So let's say you have app.site.com, then you have app2 and analytics, dashboard, whatever, right? It's all different stuff. I found a way to set my name to a XSS payload, and no, it wouldn't let me set as an XSS payload. I don't know why we came up with this. My buddy Zayed, he's like, hey, what if this is such a CTF thing? Put this header into your request, then send the request. And I send the request with that header. It was like a gzip encoding of some sort. And we put it, and it let me do my name as an XSS payload, but it wasn't popping anywhere. Then I realized if I save it on application number 2, go back to application number 1 and resave my name and go back to application number 2, it breaks out of the HTML. So if my name was script, closing script, opening a script alert, it only worked if I did the custom header on app 1, went to app 2, resaved it, went to app 1, it broke it. Cool. I got XSS, but then we had CSP to do too. Then we had to look for a subdomain takeover. We had to look for a subdomain takeover or a way to bypass all the restrictions. So I found the restriction they allowed YouTube links, and I did a callback through a YouTube embed link, and you can do an alert. And then they were like, okay, we need you to do an account takeover because this by itself isn't good enough. So then we have to go through all the CSP, all the subdomains of all the CSPs that were allowed. And then we found one particular domain that allowed us to do a subdomain takeover. And we got a subdomain takeover. So then we were able to point our script to it, pull a barrier token, and do an account takeover on anybody that went to that specific page. And that page was anyone that went to a second most popular page of the website would see our payload. It wasn't the craziest chain. It was just it's a crazy thought process to realize on accident. And I couldn't figure out what it was with the saving. You have to go to app 1, pass a header, save your name, go to app 2, resave it. And then when you go to app 1, it triggered the XSS. That is probably one of the cooler ones I've done, top of my head that I can think of. I can go through my bugs at some point and look for them too. Do you have any favorite blog posts or other content creators that you get inspired by? Yeah, I have a couple of friends. I love what Justin's doing with his podcast and his community. Love Justin. He's one of the nicest guys that I've probably worked with in the past. I look forward to working with him in the future. I love Sam ZLZ's hacking things that he does. They're not really bug bounty. He's going and hacking these massive industries and doing some really, really cool stuff. I've known Sam since he was 15 or 16, and I love seeing his growth. It makes me super, happy to be able to say I've seen him go from a young high schooler to this massive hacker who's done some really cool stuff with his life. I love Haddix. He's been a big inspiration to me. He's the reason why I became a speaker at conferences. I think those are the top 3 that I can think of. I did not expect so many questions, by the way. Thank you guys for sending all of these in because I didn't know if you guys would have a bunch of questions. Hey, Ben, thanks for doing this talk. I've tried my hand at bug bounties for a while, but I haven't had much luck finding anything. I know it's a part of the game, and I'm curious, how do you deal with motivation, discouragement, and what do you suggest for moving forward? So I haven't found a single bug. Maybe I did find one by luck. I haven't done any bug bounties in 2.5 months. After, I did my massive run with that, where I had Facebook, I hacked a bunch of big companies, big Fortune 50 or Fortune 100 companies. And then Google was this like massive last one. And then Google came back and was like, hey, we're not going to pay you for this bug. We don't think this RC is worth paying. And that, pushed me to a massive burnout because that was going to be the top thing that I could have probably done this year already. It is a part of the game. I've learned that I need to take time off to be okay. So I have these weekends where I tell myself like no laptop on this weekend. I'll play some video games, but I try and go do stuff that is not computer related, whether I need 2 days or need a whole week. So right now I'm feeling like burnout is coming. I'm taking a whole month off in March, not a whole month, whole week in March, because I've just been working, 6 to 9 hours a day at this point. Some days, I work some weeks 6 times a week. Sometimes I'm doing 7 days a week. So I'm doing long hours. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to take an hour. I'm going to take a week off. There are 2 ways. So there's one burnout manifest where you're doing the same thing and you're not getting results, right? Like I was doing the same thing. I was getting results. I ended up not getting results. I got pissed off and butthurt. I stopped doing it and I'm feeling burnt out, right? So maybe change your approach. So whether it's changing your target or changing your entire approach to what you're hacking on. And also it doesn't also hurt to take a week off and go maybe learn something new, pick a new topic, go, so-and-so just did this research. That's really cool. I want something similar. I think that's the right way to do it. So taking a break and changing your approach is probably what I would recommend. But honestly, that just is so different per person. And I think the more and more you do this, the better and easier it becomes for you to identify a burnout and also know how to deal with it. So what I got from your reply to my question, that is your vuln hunt is rather focusing on quality than quantity. Yes. Because would you rather report 100 bugs that are getting paid $100 and have to write 100 reports or automate 100 reports to be sent and you feel accomplished because you found 100 bugs? Or would you rather make the same amount of 10,000 with 1 or 2 bugs and report things that you go, oh my God, that made a huge difference? Some of those $100 bugs may make a difference in the grand scheme of things, but I think the accomplishment of saying, oh my God, I just did my goal with, 2 bugs is a lot better. But also don't play the bug bounty game for a quick buck anymore. It's not like I do it just to make some money to go have a fun trip or something. I do it for the vast majority of my income a lot of times outside of doing pen tests and things like that. So I got to focus on things that are more quality than quantity. Which bug bounty platform would you recommend for beginners? HackerOne for example, others. I've worked for HackerOne, so there's bias there, full disclosure. I do think HackerOne and Bugcrowd and Integrity are massively great in different ways. Again, it comes down to what targets you want to hack on. Go to their list and look at each of their directories or whatever they call it for the list of bug bounty programs and see which one has 3 bug bounty programs. You can go, I'd love to hack that. Or there's a bug bounty or a vuln disclosure program. That is your platform to go to. The platforms don't matter. I just know, I think Integrity pays more. Not Integrity. HackerOne pays more on average because I have bigger bug bounty programs, but I know Bugcrowd has some massive ones, so that's Integrity. Do you have a tip on how many hours you spend on a subdomain before you're moving another? And do you use Burp Scanner Pro? I don't use any scanners. I don't have a limit of how much time I spend on a subdomain. I spend enough time to go, okay, I've tested everything. I'm not finding anything. I've tested every endpoint, every idea that I have, then I move on. What would you usually target with your XSS to show impact?
Ben, sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say that every now and then I hear a very loud Discord sound.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my headphones on so I can get rid of the beeping from this.
Awesome, man.
I've muted it.
By the way, man, the questions and how you're answering them, it's really nice. So let's continue.
Give me 1 second. Okay. Just change your headphone to this way and the beep. Somebody says you like this. Okay, how about now? Does that sound better? All right, there we go. Okay, what question was I on? Oh, so what would I usually target with my XSS to show impact? A lot of times, most of these companies don't really care for an exploit. You have to read the policy to see what they want. But there are 2 things that I might go to. One is to leak some JWT token. So if they have like an API/token or API/me, somewhere where the token gets stored and they pull from it, then that's always my go-to. The second one is, I love doing this, is let's say you have an organization structure, then what I do is I'll add an admin to that organization with the exploit. So I can say, hey, I've took over your organization as well. And then the third one that's very similar is like a change password. I change the user's password. I get this SRF token, change their password, or change their email address if it doesn't require the password, obviously. A lot of times the email change, people miss it. They don't require a password for it. A lot of companies don't. So what you do is you change their email instead, your email, and then you do a password reset request on the platform to get their password. But that's one of the things I've done in the past. Do you have a certain tooling running on a VPS? Yeah, all my tools are on a VPS. I could do a shameless plug, actually. I have a DigitalOcean link that gives you $100. If anybody wants it, let me know. I can drop it in the chat so you guys get $100. And if you end up getting an account, it gives me $25 that pays for all the videos that I make using DigitalOcean. So if you want a link, let me know. I'll put it in the chat. I won't do that right now. Just so I can go through these questions. HackerOne is a bit more friendly. With integrity, you have to provide custom headers. But the custom headers happen a lot of times with a lot of bug bounty programs. It's becoming a very normal thing nowadays. And it's not super hard to do, but honestly, I sometimes forget and then I add it when I find a bug. But I didn't say it. Wait, this is going to record it too. I don't do that. That is not a question. I think I did most of the questions. What's up, Crunch? Nice seeing you here, bud. Okay, I think I have answered all of the questions. What's my favorite animal? I like penguins and dolphins. I wish I could own one, honestly, but I don't think you can. If anyone's seen Atypical, I love his obsession with dolphins, not dolphins, with penguins. What do you check within cookie-based? What do you mean, what do you check within cookie-based? Okay, how was this? Was this enough questions? Any other questions you guys want to? Wait, there's one more thing. I was wondering, I tend to focus on subdomains as main sites. Wait, I tend to focus on subdomains as main sites. Feels very competitive. Most subdomains tend to lack interactivity, functionality, and content. How do you determine interesting subdomains? Yeah, so a big part of it is experience. But if they're in front of something, there is a reason. If there is a sign in without a sign up, there's a bigger reason. So sometimes you can find, functionalities within it that you could maybe register or create an account or take over an account. I think the biggest thing is looking for functionality behind authentication and then finding ways to get in. Like I'll give you an example. There was a site that I found and there was no sign up in front of it, but you could do it through the API. They have an API call that lets you register users for the admins, and it was on-off. There's been times where they have the available for a while for devs and then they take it away. You can find it in the historical archives and things like that. It all comes down to just looking at the app and making your own decision, to be honest. Do you write the reports manually? Yes. I don't have any big pointers, but the way I write the report is I go step by step. Anything you click on, you need to have it in your report. So if you can't recreate the bug by just following your report, then it's not good enough. So I'll give you an example. You have to log in. Perfect. You have to sign up first, maybe. Okay, sign up, click on login with the account you created. Don't assume that the other person knows about the application as much as you do. Sometimes there's new engineers, the triagers have never done it. So you want to make sure you give them everything they need to know. If I have to click on a specific link, I go on the right top, right-hand corner, top right corner, click on this link. On the drop-down menu, click on the third link that says blah. And then I take screenshots if it's like deep in the page. Do you ever find vulns which you have to do with old software versions? Yeah, sometimes. A lot of like the SSRS with like Chrome versions are like that. There's CVEs of like things like Jolokia and things like that come up a lot too. Have you bypassed Imperva WAFs? No, I have not done it in a very long time. It's on case by case basis. What are your checks with websites where you can create account? Usually I look at, if there are different user roles, if there are, so I can look for authorization issues. I'll look for authentication, like if can I access, private information on auth for a user, CORS issues, XSS, it all depends. But you just want to map out what the application has, and then based on each functionality, then you go, okay, if there's APIs with a lot of user data, there's IDORs I can look for. If they're taking a lot of user inputs, I can look for XSS. If they're letting me put links in places, I could look for SSRF. Flipping bits in JWT or other cookies to see if it errors out. No, I don't really do any of those, to be honest. It has to be a reason why I'm doing it. Something gives me the reason to do it. Bug bounty paid Huracan win? I hope soon. One day. I think that was all of them. Yeah, I think I got everyone's questions.
Yeah, basically, man. That was basically the whole list. I see a lot of people typing as well. So yeah, let me see.
Yeah, I can send both of those links. Let me see if I can find how this works. So this is to be very transparent. This is an affiliate link. So if you click on it, it will give me, I don't know, some affiliation stuff. Let me send the link in. I can find it.
Hey, Ben, do you also maybe have a discount code for something that you have?
For the course, honestly, for anytime you guys need anything course-wise, it's on my website too. If you guys don't think about, you want to find it. Let me see if I can get you guys. I don't think they give you affiliate links anymore, unfortunately. Let me see. I'll look for it and see if I can send it. I don't see it anywhere, to be honest.
Sure. Otherwise, just send it to me later, and I'll just post it in the announcements group or something. Hey, by the way, we have John Hammond coming in 2 weeks.
Okay, found the link. So this should give you.
Oh, 200 even, Stalker.
Oh yeah, there you go. I don't know if that's my link or not, but that should give you at least something.
That's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's the $200 link that you can also use.
So yeah, Ben, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and answering all of the questions. It was an honor. It was very awesome to have you, man. And of course,
all right. Anything else? The moderators want to add anything?
Can you hear me, by the way? I think
I can't hear anything. Sorry, man. I've been on mute this whole time. I couldn't hear you at all.
Yeah, I was wondering, man.
Sorry, man. I had the chat open in front of me, and then I closed and I saw your name green.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, telling his whole life story. No, I was just telling you, thank you for coming on and answering all of these questions. It was very enjoyable to listen to, honestly, and I hope everyone learned a lot. So thank you a lot for your time. And I wanted to say, yeah, maybe you didn't even hear that question. I said, like, for your courses, do you have maybe a discount code for everyone?
Yeah, I sent a link in the chat that I think that is probably the highest. I have a bunch of codes. I don't know which one is what. I think that one is probably the cheaper one. Let me check one more link really quickly. Don't buy it if you're gonna buy it. I can find you a cheaper link. Okay, so this link is a little bit cheaper. There you go.
Awesome.
I think that one makes it $40 instead of $55.
Okay.
I think that link is going to, in a couple of weeks, go higher in price, if not in the next couple of hours. I don't control it. So if you're going to do it soon. So you're not paying a lot for the course.
Awesome. So sometimes I send out messages. You have a Discord group as well. So anyone that's here, Nahamsec also has a Discord group, and I think you guys do awesome stuff, right? Sometimes you do bug bounty together and stuff like this.
Yeah, I have people like Crunch in there that are crushing it with helping me build the Discord. Yeah, we do bug bounties. We have, bots that help you with stuff. There's a really massive community of people just hacking together and doing things together.
Yeah, so definitely check that out as well. And yeah, I wanted to say, like, in 2 weeks, we have John Hammond coming on and doing a guest lecture here as well.
Very cool.
And of course, I see you all around YouTube and going to events and stuff. So I wanted to ask you personally if maybe you know one of the more high profile people that we could ask. I don't know if you know, for example, Jason Haddix or something. If you can connect us with someone like that to do something similar to what you did.
Okay, I would say reach out to Justin and see if he will do it. Ryan Raider.
Yeah, Justin, you said?
Yeah, Ryan Raider, the podcast, Bug Bounty podcast.
Okay, cool, man. Can you hook us up somehow?
Let me message him and ask really quickly.
Okay, awesome. That'll be perfect, man. And that's all from my side. I just want to thank everyone again for being here. And thank you, Ben, for taking the time out of your day.
Of course. Thanks for having me. And thanks for keeping up with my rather messed up schedule and making it all work.
Nah. Thank you very much for making it possible, man, and taking the time out of your schedule to be here. So it was awesome to be here. And yeah, have a nice day, everyone. And I'll upload this probably tomorrow to YouTube, so you can watch the answers back. I heard a lot of tool names like HTTPX and stuff, so you can just listen to that tomorrow. Okay, guys, have a nice day. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.